Appreciate everybody being patient. Daniel House, you can start your clock and take the overs and over-unders. I think I'm taking the under. I don't know. Can you bet on yourself? Okay. All right. So put me in as under. First of all, thanks for being here. It's a tremendous day for our program. National Signing Day is always really exciting, especially the way college football is now. Some value it more than others. We had one of our biggest celebrations this morning with our donors, our boosters, our alumni, our supporters over there at Huntington Bank Stadium, which was a heck of a turnout. We will always celebrate this day, and we'll celebrate it massively like we always do. And we've got a lot of Gophers to get to talk about. So that's what the day's about. It's hard to be able to put 100% of your attention into something, especially in 2023, 2024. But 100% of our attention right now will be spent on these recruits and signees as our players right now are getting ready to go through a walkthrough. So I say 100%. That's my 100% right now on this as we continue to get ready for our Quick Lane Bowl as we head out to Detroit. So I'll start with just talking a few things about the notes that we have, just broad-based about this whole recruiting class. So we signed 25 new Gophers. I'm sure you're very aware of that. 15 states represented. Every offense and defensive position is represented. 15 mid-year enrollees, which is incredible and also important for our development of 2024. 20 high school prospects. We said from day one we're always going to be a high school developmental program and then use the portal to fill in those pieces, especially when you start getting to the spring with the depth challenges you have if people leave you later. I think that's critical to understand. And that was the issue that we kind of felt with last year that we need to be better at and be way more productive at. But our NIL and what we've been able to do is 10X, 12X, whatever you want to say, from where we were last year. And Diggytown Athletes is just doing an amazing job, and I can't thank them enough for all that they're doing for our own student athletes and the retention pod, but also as we kind of go out there and recruiting. 5 transfers that are immediately eligible and will help our team this fall. We've had 4 players in the All-American Bowl coming up. That's a record for our staff, well represented by the players that will be playing in it. You had Coy, you had Brett Carroll, you had Riley, and you had Roy. Those are the 4 guys that will be playing in that bowl game. It was formerly the Army All-American Bowl game. People probably they changed the name on that and the sponsorship, but I think people know what I'm talking about with that. So that's most ever. We've had 6 in the past 2 years playing that bowl game, which I think is incredible for everyone to understand where we are in recruiting. We had the top player in 3 different states. We had the top player in the state of Minnesota. To us, most important is taking care of our own state, homegrown talent. 2, the number 1 player in the state of Wisconsin. Take a lot of pride in that, especially with our rivalry. That was huge for us. And then the number 1 player in North Dakota, which you all know with Riley Sunrum. So 3 players in the top 2, 4, 7 rankings, Coy, Roy, and Riley. And then the highest ranked player of our staff that we've ever signed was Coy. That was a huge get for us, which you all understand the recruitment process that he went through, especially towards the end. And then 2 of the top 5 all-time Gophers ever signed was Coy and Roy in this class, top 5 of all time, which I think, as we said this 6, 7 years ago, this is where we wanted to get to. This is not an end-all, be-all, but this is exactly what we said we wanted to do. Keep in-state talent, keep the top players in the state, especially out of the top 10 who are coming to be Gophers. It's the most we've had and the most consistent we've been. Really excited about that. So with that said, I'm going to go through each player. We're going to talk just a little bit about each kid, and then I'll take questions from all of you. But C.A. Bangura, he's a running back from Ohio University. He was the 2021 Freshman Player of the Year in the Mid-American Conference. I have a ton of respect for the Mid-American Conference, playing in it, being a head coach in it. And then, he was all MAC last year. And bringing that type of physicality. He's longer. He's got long arms. I mean, he's close to 6 foot. Played a lot of football already and showed that he can be a one-cut downhill threat in the run game. Ran for 1,982 yards and 22 touchdowns over the last 2 years. Led Ohio in rushing. And, it's great when you go into people's houses. So Jollof rice and oxtail, grandma, when we walk in, that's exactly what you have for us. Not only that, when you leave, she's got a whole to-go bag for you, too, and a to-go plate. And I can't thank her enough because you walked in, she's decked out in her Ohio gear, which is fine. But now we got to get her decked out in that Gopher gear as he made the change over to us. So he is a running back from the DMV. and actually goes to the rival high school of Muhammad Ibrahim. So as we talk about where guys are from and how important that is to us. Next up, a lot of you know who this young man is, and he's actually on the plane here right now, which is great. Just got to get him on the ground and officially get him in the door, which is going to be good. But Max Brosmer, quarterback, played at New Hampshire by the way of Georgia. He's got 1 year remaining, and we knew that we were, at one point, you all know this, we didn't have any quarterbacks to play in the bowl game. There was a small amount of time at one point where we didn't have anybody, and Cole Kramer and Max will do that this year. Not Max Brosmer, right? The other Max on our team. So you guys know that. But Cole stepping in to play the bowl game's huge for us. But we're talking about next year, and at the time, I think it was a top 5 portal quarterback. And I think a lot is said, but what it takes to be able to get a quarterback and what it costs and all those other things, that's all true. But at the end of the day, this guy wanted to have a place where he could walk in, he could compete, he could get started, he could find a way to be the number one guy, he could find a way to be able to put the program on his back. He led FCS in passing this year. When you talk about an elite leader, right? His mom and dad are unbelievable people. They also like wine, which is great. But they're unbelievable people. His brother Fish is like an amazing trumpeter. So I got to learn a little bit about that. So that'll be interesting for you, Grammy, to do a segment on him and about his trumpeteering. Learned a lot about that through the process. He's a Walter Payton Award finalist, which is the FCS Heisman, AP second team, FCS All-American. He played 36 games at New Hampshire, has thrown for 8,713 yards, 70 touchdowns in his career, and again, he arrives today. But the biggest thing that I love about him is his leadership. He wanted to go somewhere where he was going to make an impact. He could put the team on his shoulders, and he could go. I'm not sure if any of you have been to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, but there's a great little restaurant right there called the River House, and we were able to have a little lobster roll right there and look at the boats coming in, and very unique part of the country. I haven't spent much time in New Hampshire, but he was worth it, and we're excited to have him. This young man picked it for all the right reasons. We talk about all the things that people pick things for these days. He didn't want anything handed to him. He wanted to be able to come in here, compete, lead a team, be in a culture that made him better. He's a 3.88 kinesiology major. Guy wants to be a heart surgeon. So that's a good thing for a head coach because your heart takes a little bit more of a beating these days. And if I ever go down, I got somebody at the quarterback position that can take good care of me. He might be the first on the scene and actually know what to do, maybe more than the trainers. This is going to be great. So he is a very special individual. And I can't wait for you to meet him. He's going to be here today, and then he's going to be with us through the bowl prep. So hopefully you guys get a chance to spend some time with Max and get to know his family as well because he comes from a really special group of parents. Next, Harrison Brunn, DB from Rockford High School in Minnesota, one of our preferred walk-ons. You talk about a guy that came to camp over and over and over and just kept doing it and kept impressing us every single day. Made 86 tackles, 9 tackles for a loss. First team All-Metro by Care 11. And in one game this year, this is pretty cool. He had a rushing touchdown. He had a receiving touchdown. He had a punt return touchdown and a pick 6 for a touchdown. I'm not sure how many high schoolers did that. So we're excited to have him all the way from Rockford, Minnesota. Next up, one of the most unique individuals I think that you'll come in contact with, but this is Mason Carrier out of Detroit Lakes High School, who's a legacy Gopher in the way of his mom and dad both went here. Dad went to the Carlson School of Management. Mom travels all over the world with her job. But when you're talking about Big Ten Minnesota linebackers, and there is a video clip, which I'm sure all of you have probably seen, of him building a snowman with his shirt off in Minnesota in the middle of January or February, and then comes out of nowhere after he builds it and blasts the snowman, tackles the snowman. He built the snowman to tackle the snowman with his shirt off. Like nothing says Minnesota football and Minnesota linebacker more than that. And this guy is the ultimate competitor. He's just scored his 1,000th point in basketball. He's going after all types of records. You're talking about a running back, a linebacker, does everything for his team. His brother Ethan is on our team. He's a special football player. He's a special person. I think you all saw his other tweets of how committed he is to the Gophers. And he said, I get to know the name, Mason Carrier. And you're all going to get to know that name. I think he's the next special one in that linebacker room as we continue to move forward. He was the first commit of the class. listed as a number 4 player in the state of Minnesota, but all those rankings are all number 1. They're unbelievable, guys, of how they were able to keep this class really connected. 858 yards, rushing, 19 touchdowns. I mean, a bunch of tackles, sacks, interceptions. You wouldn't expect anything less from just an overall elite high school student athlete that can't wait to get here. But he's going to finish some things up in his sports and then find a way to get out here. So once we hit the summer. Next up, one of our All-Americans, Brett Carroll, offensive line from Kansas. And, he's a number 3 overall player in the state of Kansas. One of our 4 All-Americans playing in that bowl game. He's the reigning heavyweight champion in the state of Kansas in wrestling. I love the wrestling background, especially with people that have to do with contact constantly. And offensive line, that's what you have to deal with. He's a shot put champion as well. So you're talking about a guy who's going to be a state champion in wrestling, state champion in track. These are winners. These are winners coming into this program. And as you continue to go, you were a winner before you became a winner, and these guys are winners. And really excited to have Brett and his family come out here and join us from Kansas. Next up, Logan Fife, quarterback from Fresno State by the way of Tracy, California. He's got 2 years remaining. He was 3-3, I think, as a starter at Fresno when he went into the game. He's a dual threat type quarterback. He's really good, really elusive, good with the second play. He's a really accurate passer. He's an unbelievable teammate. You talk about going into the portal and bringing somebody in here in full transparency and showing them what we have coming in and what the expectations are. He bit at that opportunity. He couldn't wait to be here, couldn't wait to get in there and start competing. Played 24 career games there. That's a lot of experience to bring in. We wanted to revamp that entire room, the running back room. Besides Darius, besides JoJo, we wanted to revamp. Same thing with that quarterback room. And I think we accomplished that. So really excited about having his family out here. They just joined us last weekend, which was great to have them here too. And the weather's helped. Just telling you, I think we got 40-some degrees here in Minnesota. I mean, December's almost done. And we're almost through winter, everybody. We're getting closer. It's great when you tell that to California people. So next up, Mike Gerald from Houston, Texas, Morton Ranch High School down there in Texas. He's a defensive back. But in high school, he did everything to help his team. He took he was quarterback, he was DB, he was everything. And they might not have the wins and losses that they wanted, or the wins they wanted, but he was so selfless. We saw him play, and we're like, this guy is special. He's got special movement skills. He's a special competitor. He's so athletic. He can do everything. He was responsible for 19 of his team's touchdowns, almost 2,000 all-purpose yards. We saw him at a satellite camp. So you talk about the benefit of having satellite camps. Mike's a great example of that. And then you always love when the head coach gets to go out because whether grandmas or parents are cooking, and I tell you, his grandma makes the best honey bun cakes ever. So there's a little NIL shout out to grandma. Next up, from Iona Prep High School, Coach Spags out there, who's a very close coach to our program, and Coach Nick Monroe over there in New York. Jalen Hicks, defensive line. He's trained in jiu-jitsu. And if you know anything about jiu-jitsu, it's pretty combative. A lot of it's on the ground. And you talk about a defensive line being involved in the muck and the dirt and the filth of that O-line, D-line, and getting dirty. He's really twitchy. He's really explosive. Loves Marvel Comics, huge Marvel comic person. And his mother, Anne Marie, is a fantastic woman. Gone through a lot of hardships, a lot of tough things, even recently, but nothing ever gets her spirits down. I mean, she is absolutely elite, and so is Grandma. But his mom, Anne Marie, she is a special, special woman, and she's one of those moms that are like, I'm moving there, Coach. So look forward to possibly having her out here and being a Minnesotan as well. Moving on. Okay, we talked about the running back position, being able to transfer or really kind of redo that whole room as we're looking for what we need to be able to do. Plenty of opportunities this year to run out games, and we weren't able to do it for a lot of different reasons. But we got to get back to that. So Femi Ijaboy from Penn Charter High School in Pennsylvania. He's ranked the number 8 recruit in the state of Pennsylvania. We're talking about a kid that has a 4.51 40. He's got a 39-inch vertical. 10.4 broad jump. I can tell all of you that now because we don't want anybody knowing that information. Not that that's not out there, but those are real numbers. like real numbers. And when you're talking about, he's 198 pounds right now. He looks like he's been playing in the Big Ten for a while. So the maturity of his body, the maturity of his skills is there. His brother plays semi-pro soccer. He committed to us at Fogo de Chao. And it was interesting because when I said, listen, to commit, you got to turn that thing green. You can't be having it red. So turn that over green. We'll celebrate with a ton of meat, and we'll celebrate with you committing. But that's got to be green. And he flipped it over to green, and we're all good. And committed at Fogo, which was pretty cool. He ran a 10.89 100-meter dash in track. And thank goodness for Fogo de Chao. It's been good to us in recruiting over the past. I think people feel really comfortable there. Whatever that juice is they have, the milk / juice / strawberry combination, you all know what I'm talking about, where people have hundreds of glasses of it. If you're juiceless, you're useless. If you're juiceful, you're useful. And that's what Fogo is about. So 968 yards rushing, 10 touchdowns in 9 games this year. Moving on. Don't worry, Daniel. I'm keeping the under. Julian Johnson, tight end, Wabansie Valley High School out there in Aurora, Illinois, right by Sugar Grove, Illinois, where I'm from. Actually lived in Aurora for a long time growing up. Wabansie Valley High School, number 14th ranked recruit in the state of Illinois. Really long, really twitchy, a really good tight end. Played defensive end as well, played both sides of the ball. Mom, Trine, is a school administrator, which is incredible. And then Dad, Brian, is the assistant AD at North Central College, who just played in the national championship. Football family. We're going to be recruiting his brothers here coming up, too. I can say that because they're not in high school, nor are they prospective student athletes yet at this point. But as another brother, too, that plays at NIU, and Jonah and Jacob, we're coming for you. So it's going to be a lot of fun as we keep going into the future. But we're really excited about Julian Johnson joining our football team. Next up, again, that quarterback position, our high school recruit. We usually only take one high school recruit, and it's a big one, literally a big one. 6'6", 230-pound Drake Lindsay from Fayetteville High School in Arkansas. What originally got us interested about Drake was he had a connection to Minnesota. His grandfather played for Bud Grant here with the Minnesota Vikings. And, it was interesting. I was in Eden Prairie the other day, and Mike Grant and I took a picture, and I sent it to JD because JD, tells stories just like I'm sure his dad did back in the day, and you pass that down to generation, and they're very close with the Grant family and still show gratefulness to this day through Mike, what Bud did for his dad. And that just shows the legacy Bud Grant left that affects Minnesota Gopher football recruiting to this day. And that's legacy. That's an impact. Where somebody, or again, who's our NFL representative as the head coach many years ago, could have that impact on the Minnesota Golden Gophers. That's what our community is all about. So we're really excited about that. Now, the only thing we were a little worried about is everybody was Razorbacks. Everybody. Dad, grandpa, sister is a basketball player at Arkansas right now. And JD, his dad, used to get on the phone all the time. And, JD now talks just like this. And JD would get on the phone, coach. That's how he says coach. And I'd be like, JD, can you change your shirt? Oh, well, why? Like, it's a Razorback. You're talking to me. I'm a Gopher. Can you please just rest my mind and put that away? And he's like, Coach, you do realize my daughter plays at Arkansas. I am a Razorback. My dad was a Razorback. And I'm like, all right, you can keep whatever shirt on. Just make sure you change it. So then I got his wife, Brooke, in the room. I'm like, could you get him a new shirt? And he changed his shirt. I give him credit. He put that block M on. 13-0 state champ. I think that says it all. I got a chance to watch the state championship with his dad. And I've never watched an entire game, let alone the state championship, against their rival, right, in Little Rock with a parent. And it gave me a whole new outlook on what a parent goes through as a quarterback dad. The highs, the lows. We talk situational football. He's asked me what I would do in this situation. I was like, well, what would I do and what Andy would do? Probably two different things. So let's call Andy. Let's get me involved, and we'll go from there. And it was pretty cool. And to watch the emotion, because it came down to the last play. And you could just see this exhale of a family's anxiety, pride, just come pouring out. And like it was a relief. Think about it. 13-0, player of the year of the state of Arkansas. 6'6", 230. All that weight comes down to that last drive. But he is very talented. How talented? 91 touchdowns, 7 picks in the last 2 years. That's pretty good. With close to a 70% completion percentage. He was the MVP of the state title game. Threw for almost 4,000 yards just this season alone. He was named the Max Preps Arkansas Player of the Year. He's up for the Gatorade Player of the Year. His dad, JD, who I got a chance to introduce you to through me, through his accent, which you'll all know who JD is the number one real estate agent broker in the state of Arkansas. Again, sister Lauren plays at Arkansas. Mom, Amy, is an unbelievable person. You can tell where he gets his heart. And it is from Amy. She's an amazing person. And then Coach Casey's done an elite job down there. And it was fun. You have to wait till everybody's been dismissed to actually see everybody. But it was fun to be a part of that celebration when everybody was dismissed. That was kind of cool. You felt like you were part of the team. That was a special day for us that I'll remember forever. So really excited about having Drake here from Fayetteville, Arkansas. Next up, Sam Macy from Chanhassen High School in Minnesota, state champion. Sam is a kid that came to camp over and over and over, and we told him what he needed to do. He kept working on it and eventually offered him. He's a two-sport athlete, plays baseball as well, but a state champion, 13-0, knows how to win, loves the state of Minnesota, dreamed of being a Gopher since he was a kid. And again, another person that had come to camp to earn a scholarship. So that's how important those camps are. I say that to parents all the time. Some people believe me, some people don't. Those camps and those live evaluations truly matter, so make sure you continue to do that. Next up, Sam Adu, defensive back from Archbishop Spennick in high school in New York. Coached by Coach O.D. Miss Lisa is amazing at that school, helping out the young people in every area of their life. He only played football a couple years. That's what makes him so attractive to us. Coach Monroe has so many connections out there in the New York area, but he has a really, really high ceiling. Talk about an athlete. I mean, he is really smooth, really long. The weight room's going to do him some good. Our nutrition plan's going to do him some good. But he had double-digit Power 5 offers. He made 50 tackles, 19 PBUs, and did not allow a touchdown in the whole year. And that's pretty good when you're talking about who's coming in at corner and / safety. He can do both. Jayante McMillan, defensive back, transfer from TCU by the way of Atlanta, Georgia. Played 4 years at TCU. Actually played in the national championship game. Have somebody with national championship CFP experience coming to play for us. He's got 2 years left. He has position flexibility. He can play corner. He can play nickel. He can play safety. But he played in 32 games at TCU. And I think this is really, really key to add some of that depth to that corner, that nickel room, and even the safety room as we continue to do that. We are lacking some depth there this year, as well as linebacker, as well as running back. And you can see how that affects you over time as you go through a season. All right, next up, Corey Perich, defensive back from Esco High School in Minnesota. Number one player in the state of Minnesota. Danny Collins did an unbelievable job recruiting and building a relationship 2 years ago with this young man. Got a chance to go to one of his high school games. It's amazing. The kid's so good. He picks balls off left and right. I mean, the defense scored all the points. It was like 21-0, and he already had 2 of them, I think it was, and he's running down the sideline, and he just points at you. That was pretty cool. I thought that was unique. We'd like him to keep his eyes on the goal line and go ahead and finish +3 through the goal line. But if you're going to point at me, I'll take it, especially if you're going to stay committed to us. That even made it better because that could be in a rub in your face. I'm going somewhere else, or, hey, I'm staying to you. You just don't know which one it was. Obviously, it was stay with you, so we're fired up. This one, obviously, is well documented about his recruiting battle towards the end. And I think some things kind of get blown out of proportion at times, and some people say they have this, and they really don't. This was very real. And it came down to the last minute with this young man. And I thought that he kept hearing the same thing over and over and over. And every time he got back on the phone, it was like, what else you got? Nothing. It's the exact same thing I told you 2 years ago. And the consistency of that, I think, rang true. He wants to make a massive impact here in the state of Minnesota, at the University of Minnesota. He's a number 3 safety in the nation. Number 1 player in the state of Minnesota, one of the 4 Gophers that'll play in the All-American game, 53 overall player in the nation. I think that's a huge credit to our staff and our community, our state of Minnesota, that we're keeping these people here now. And we needed that one. We needed that one since we've been here to get this thing going to where we need it to be with the cultural sustainability. He's responsible for 27 touchdowns this year in all types of ways, shapes, and forms. 62 tackles, 7 TFLs, 5 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries. You talk about one of the most competitive high school players I've ever watched live. one of the best high school players I've ever watched live, who loves the game of football. Loves it. They have family day on Sundays, only watching football. They're a football family. That's what they love. And him staying home allows them to be able to watch 2 college games in one day by watching his brother and him in the same state. And I know that Danielle was hoping for that, his mom. And George, was going to support him either way, but I know George is excited about that too, especially his brother Mason too. So now we got opportunity to watch both in the same day. He's a 10,800 meter guy. You guys know that he's a 3-sport athlete, a top 3 player Minnesota has ever signed. And the reason why we got him was because of the bad moms. There you go. So this is a club that his mom belongs to, and they're a bunch of parents, and everybody loves Coy, and they have a great connection up there in Esco. You talk about Minnesota nice and Minnesota connection, Minnesota family. Well, you had to go through that group, and you had to get that group in the boat to make sure that he was going to be a Gopher. And I feel like we did that. So we look forward to joining that group. And I know Heather does. So she was fired up when she felt that she could be a part of that group too. So it's pretty cool that they have that type of support. I was handed that, so that wasn't something that I made. That was pretty cool that he has that, but I probably just embarrassed him. But get used to it. But he is a special person, special player, and I can't tell you how much his commitment means to the future of our program, and I think he knows that too. And you talk about do everything you can to leave your legacy. He's already left a little bit in recruiting, and I know he's got a lot of goals, hopes, and aspirations that we want to help come true here at the University of Minnesota. So really excited for him. Next up, another safety, Zahir Rayner from Trinity High School in Virginia. His dad, Wally, played 8 years in the National Football League. And if you ever get around his dad, you think I have energy and you think I can talk. Wally makes me sound silent and quiet. He is a big personality. You talk about love for his family. This kid has NFL bloodlines running through his body. And you talk about staying committed. His dad played up in the Northeast area, Virginia, but coming to Minnesota, that's somewhere that, he fit. And I keep talking about it. It's all about fit. He visited as a sophomore. And I remember falling in love with him, and I think he fell in love with us. But we're like, man, this is a long way away, and this is a long time from now. And then when all the other schools keep coming in, he stayed truly committed to us through the highs and lows. And I'll tell you this, he idolizes Antoine Winfield Jr., absolutely loves him, and thinks his play is similar to that, and look forward to be able to watch that, evaluating that, and put that on the field. So he's a top 15 recruit out of the state of Virginia. Next up, dove into the portal again at the corner position, Ethan Robinson. He's a defensive back coming from Bucknell by the way of Montgomery, New York. He's got 1 year remaining, and his dad was a NYPD, then DEA agent, has a Purple Heart in the home. I took a picture of it because you talk about what that man has seen. And you could see that also from his mom, Tawanda. You could see who's a middle school principal, but what you could see is the upbringing they had in their house. So 2 quick things. He's in my office. He wants to commit. And his dad's like, Mr. Robinson says, you want to commit? Ethan's like, absolutely. He's like, all right, take your phone out. I'm like, what's he going to? Usually this is me. I have to walk them through this. Not with Mr. Robinson. He said, take your phone out. Text whoever who is going to go see the next day and then midweek. He goes, tell him you're not coming. He's like, I'm sitting there going, should I be uncomfortable? I'm just sitting there watching this. I'm an observer. And he says, text him, tell him you're not coming. Okay? Show Coach Fleck. He shows me, I'm like, great. At some point you're like, do I really believe this or do I not believe this, right? You're sitting there because you're constantly paranoid. He's like, all right, sit back down, son. You know where we're going this weekend? He goes, yep. We're going that place, aren't we? He goes, yep. He goes, not anymore. Text that team too. If you're committed, text them right now. Show Coach Fleck. And I'm sitting there going, my goodness, this is awesome. I don't have to, this is fantastic. This is usually me having to walk people through how they say they're not coming. Whose feelings are you going to hurt? I'm like, what about my feelings? Anyway, long story short, he texts him, shows me, sits back down, boom, done. That is the type of family he comes from. And you talk about structure, right? Tawanda's sitting in my office, and she looks at him before he sends these text messages. And she looks over at him, she's like, and she's ignoring me. She's having a complete conversation with her son, and she is awesome. You talk about an unbelievable woman, awesome. And she's got a very, very cool sense of humor, which at the time I kind of know but don't know. And she looks over at her son. She's like, Ethan, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure you want to play for this strict man? And I said, strict? We're talking structure. She starts laughing. She's like, I know, it's structure. I just had to test him. So pretty amazing. You hear all these things in your office, and you're like, okay, all right, cool. But I loved how they got him to be able to say, okay, this is your decision. And if you want that, there's no messing around. And if that's what you really want, then say it, but you're going to have action following it. You talk about parents, being parents. He's got unbelievable parents. Oh, yeah. Oh, he's a really good football player, too. Coach George helps all the DBs out there. He does a great job with that. He played for Coach Spags as well at Iona in high school, where Nick Monroe has a lot of connections. Talk about how great of a recruiter Coach Monroe is. He played in 31 career games and had 154 tackles. So you talk about an immediate impact player. Feel really good about where he is in his development and his college career coming into play a year. So really excited about him and his family joining us. Next up, Nathan Roy from Wisconsin. And you talk about, the number one player in the state of Wisconsin. We start talking offensive lineman. I don't think you have to really kind of think about what that picture looks like. I think we can all have some type of perception of what that looks like in our minds. He is exactly that. Again, one of 4 Gophers in the All-American game. He's a consensus 4-star, 5th highest ranked player Minnesota has ever signed. And again, we have 2 of those 5 in this class alone, which again I think shows where we're heading. Mom Summer is a higher up in Kroger and loves horses. She's a member of the All-American Quarter Horse Congress, which I found out a lot about when I was in the home. Things I never even knew about. The only thing I know about the horses right now is what Yellowstone teaches me. And that's about it. So it was amazing to kind of dive into what that was because I didn't grow up around horses. But you talk about he's already got that All-American blood in him. And, nothing by coincidence. So his brother Benjamin plays at UCLA. And this is where he's at in his mind. We FaceTime him this morning. He's got a sweatshirt on. And guess what sweatshirt he has on? UCLA. I'm like, out of all days to get on with the head football coach, you're supporting your brother. And I get it. But he's, oh, yeah, I forgot. That's him. Like, hey, it doesn't matter. Like, he's not trying to impress anybody. He just woke up, threw a sweatshirt on, and said, hey, here we go. So the good thing is get to play against each other here coming up this year, which will be kind of fun for the Roy family. I know that. So Mo Sane, defensive line, Eden Prairie High School in Minnesota. Top 5 player in the state of Minnesota. 38 tackles, 9 tackles for losses, 3 sacks this year. First team All-State by the AP. Great basketball player. And you can see him when he practices. I mean, this guy is wide shoulder. He's got a body like Boye Mafe did when he came out. Very similar body type. Coached by Mike Grant, which we already talked about the Grant family and the impact they've had on the state of Minnesota, let alone the Gophers or the Vikings. Mike Grant making huge impacts at Eden Prairie High School and follows the lineage of Cole Kramer, Carter Coughlin, Blake Cashman, and guys we've had from EP in our program already. So I want to thank Coach Titus as well because I know he was really close to him in the recruiting process. Next up, Simon Seidel from Hill Murray High School right here in Minnesota. We're the state of hockey, right? Well, he's an elite hockey player, and if you can move that well on skates, you're going to move that well with your feet at corner. He was one of our first commits, did a great job keeping this class together, especially in state. Coach Reeves does an elite job. I worked with Coach Reeves back at Northern Illinois together, and Coach Reeves does a great job at Hill Murray. And we're excited about having one of his players help lead the team for the first conference title in almost 20 years. But he's been locked in since March. And he was the glue to the class really early and late. But he does play hockey, everybody, so that's a good thing. I know everybody just gave him a tip of the cap because he does play hockey and lives in the state of Minnesota. So next up, Jacob Simpson, tight end from Johnston High School in Iowa. Long, athletic, incredible ball skills. I think when you start to see the tight ends we're recruiting right now, the Pierce Walshes of the world that can really run, stretch the field. They're tough. They can block. He fits that mold. Jamison Gears, same way. Nick Callerup, big physical tight end. But Jacob's got that athleticism. He runs like a wideout, catches like a wideout, blocks like an O-lineman, and he's tough. He's a number 1 tight end in the state of Iowa. Number 5 player in the state of Iowa. Mom Becky, Dad AJ invited me to dinner, but it was a different dinner. It was FaceTime. So we met at the high school, but this was another time. This is the first time I've ever had dinner with a family on FaceTime, propped up next to the burgers, and had a great time. I mean, we literally talked for 30, 40 minutes and had dinner together at their kitchen table, which is very important to them, and did it on FaceTime. It was before all the visits and all that other stuff, and you talk about real conversation. It was like I was truly there, which I appreciate from them, and he committed on FaceTime. Back on the summer OV, so it kind of came hand in hand. 42 catches, 680 yards, 10 touchdowns this season, but really athletic tight end. Really excited to have him, Jacob Simpson. Dallas Sims, wide receiver, Clearwater International Academy down in Florida by the way of Canada, right? You know how our pipeline to Canada and Clearwater has been really, really, really strong, but he's originally from Winnipeg. Great connection with Clearwater, as I said before. Same school as Rylan Kelly, who's getting better for us every single day. Had back-to-back 100-yard receiving games this season. And, again, we got a chance to see him and absolutely loved him, and I can't wait for him to be here very soon. Jalen Smith, wide receiver from Mankato West High School in Minnesota. I think one of the sleepers of the class. Probably got under-recruited, and we liked it that way. We truly did, because when you watch him, you're like, yep, he has it. And I'm saying what the it's, you can tell when you watch the Corey Davises of the world, you watch the Rashad Batemans of the world, you watch the Tyler Johnsons of the world, watch the Daniel Jacksons of the world. They have it, and you can see it. Now, there's a lot to develop, but you can see it. Jalen has that. Very, very smooth player, very confident. He's a 10-8 in track. He can really run. He can jump. He's really athletic. Minnesota All-Star game at US Bank Stadium, but he's smooth. We loved him at camp, and I think this guy, he had 557 yards receiving. But that's not going to transfer over to what he does here. Sometimes you don't get to control a lot of those things at the high school level. But here, you get to make that type of impact. And, when you're good enough, we'll get you the ball. And I tell you, he had a great camp, and really glad he's joining the program at wideout. Next up, Riley Smiley Sunrum. This guy never stops smiling. He's from Kindred High School there in North Dakota, the #1 player in the state of North Dakota again on our defensive line. Again, one of 4 Gophers playing in the All-American game. He was offered at our camp in 2022. He's the first in discus. He's the second in shot. He won state title in football. He's going after all types of state titles this year. Parents do an elite job. Jennifer and Ryan are incredible people. Talk about them investing in our program early, never wavering. It says a lot. You talk about difference. So dad is an active drinker in Dinkytown athletes with Duck Duck beer, active. And then not only that, what I think is really unique in the world of NIL, and I can say this, right, Garrett, with Riley, what he does for Dinkytown. I can say that? Yeah, okay, just making sure. So, most people are taking from Dinkytown. He donates to Dinkytown. How cool is that? He gives to the NIL collective as a family. You talk about a role reversal. That's the type of kid you're getting. One of the most selfless families and people you will ever meet. We're honored to have the Sunrum family a part of our culture. Next up, Jaden Wright, running back, Bishop McNamara High School in Illinois. Same high school as Chris Altman Bell. 3-sport athlete. This guy has heavy hands. He's got big, strong, heavy hands like a running back should have. He is really fast. He's really tough. He's really strong. He's been committed since day one, kept his commitment. He made 52 tackles on defense. Unbelievable kid. Uncle played football at NIU. Mom is a director of a Montessori school. And you talk about a kid who's going to be here immediately. So Feme and him will join us here in the next few weeks. And you look at adding that with Darius. You add that to JoJo. You get all those guys in that room. You got CA joining us right away. That room, especially for spring ball in the offseason, gets turned around really quickly. Really love where we're at the running back position. And maybe didn't feel that way a few weeks ago in terms of the depth-wise, but I think we did a good job of addressing those issues. So that's our class for 2024. Really excited about sharing it with you, as you can probably imagine. Love the stories. Love these types of things because this is what it's all about. It's fun, sharing some of the stories that you have and giving you an inside look, a little bit of their lives and the recruiting process. And I take a lot of pride in, and it should be. It's a celebration of them. It's a celebration of our team, and it's a celebration of their journey in the process. So hope I didn't embarrass anybody too much, but get used to it. We're going to have a lot of fun. So with that, we'll open up for questions.
When you look at Coy, you talked about the consistency in your message, but there's also an importance to differentiate yourself and stand out. How did you try to convey that to him?
Well, I think that, when you're talking to high school student athletes, and we have a stance on a lot of different things that we do and how we do it. We've been consistent with that. But I think it's the whole package for him, understanding what he can do and how that can help impact him when he's here, the NIL, when he is here, the difference he'll be able to make in our community. And we're talking about leaving a legacy, not only as a player, but as a person. And I think people like that have opportunities to do other things, which are incredibly attractive and rightfully so. You have to have your purpose and your mission bigger than whatever's being offered to you. And I think that was really key for Coy. I think it takes a while for young people at 18 years old to get there, and especially when it comes in like a tidal wave. You can expect it. You can talk about it. You can say it's coming. You can do all of that. But when it hits you, I think it really challenges the depth and the core of who you are. Because I think that, we talk about this all the time. 90% of all the things we want to happen in our lives, it presents itself. And then when you're presented with it, how bad do you really want it then? Right? And not only that, what are you going to do with it? And I think Coy's a great example of taking it and running with it and finding out this is exactly where you want to be with the people you want to be with, despite who comes in. And we were very transparent through the whole conversations. We kept our communication very live. If he ever said I needed a little time to think, we gave him that time. But he's got a really special family, and I know his family means a lot to him. The state of Minnesota means a lot to him, and we couldn't be more honored to bring in his entire family.
You added a couple big mismatch style pass catchers in this class. What type of dimension can that bring to the offense in the future?
Well, that's what we want to be able to do. I mean, you see the quarterback we brought in. I think we did as much as we could to execute that early on in the year. We weren't able to do that, unfortunately. That's what we wanted to do and where we wanted to go this year. I think these guys allow us to do that, as well as the other classes that we've added. Kendrick's having an unbelievable bowl prep. You look at Nuke. You look at TJ, you look at all the young guys, the Elijah, who's going to be back here next, Elijah Spencer. Look at all those young guys, and then you add these guys to that, and you add our young tight ends. I mean, I feel really good about where we're at in the pass game. I've seen what works. I see what doesn't work. I see where we struggled. I see where we have to get better. And as long as you keep learning from this, then things are worth it. If you're not learning from it, you're just taking the square peg, jamming it in the round hole. I mean, it's not what this is about. This is about adapting. Maybe not changing, but adapting in a lot of areas, and I think we've done that in our pass-catching ways.
You brought in a lot of experience at the quarterback with Brosmer and Logan as well. How big is that for the development of Drake Lindsey, too?
It's huge, and Drake knows that. Everybody's going to have an opportunity to compete. That's not the issue. Everybody will. That's the best players are going to play. But it does help with the bridge. You got two guys that have played college football at this level, at the Division I level. So now you've got two guys really helping you, not just playing at this level or not playing at this level, only practicing. You got one guy's a Walter Payton finalist, the FCS Heisman Trophy. When you look at, Logan, he's played a ton of football, and that's going to help us too. And had starts and played major college football. And we're very familiar with Fresno. Everybody remember them? So it's going to benefit him tremendously. And he's mature enough to understand that. And you don't look at he doesn't look at it as a bad thing. You're the best one, you'll play. But it helps him with that bridge and that maturity right away to jump in right now in a few weeks and get moving.
What was it like recruiting these last 10 days or so without a defensive coordinator? And when you're looking forward to whoever you do hire, do you have a timeline for that or some of the things you're going to be looking for and who you make?
That's a great question, Ryan. I want to be able to give 100% of my attention like I just did to this book. That was 100% of my attention. My mind was nowhere else. For me to be able to put 100% of my attention right now into the hire, I'd be shortchanging our team, our staff, our players, the state of Minnesota. I have an obligation to make sure that I do my due diligence and not spottingly. There's a lot going on right now. We have bowl prep. We got the transfer portal. We got NIL fundraising. We've got obviously signing day. We got all these things going on. And oh, yeah, by the way, you got to go make an important, really, really massive hire. So I've told our team, I said, be patient. It's going to be a little while. I'd like to be able to have that done in the first week of January because this is about getting to see people face-to-face. Again, I owe it to our team to do the due diligence necessary to find them the best leader of the defense. And our staff has been incredibly supportive of that. They've walked hand in hand with me throughout the entire process of this, and now we'll start that process once we get done with our bowl game. Because right now, 100% of my attention needs to be focused on our players playing their best game they possibly can for the Quick Lane Bowl in Detroit. And I'm not saying I'm not thinking about it at times, but I'm not ready to make that full commitment into it where I can get the best player or best person and the best leader and the best coach and coordinator for the state of Minnesota. And that's what we're going to look forward to. So I'd like to be able to have that done in the first week of January at some piece around that convention time. But right now, like I said, it's in the back of my mind. But right now, the attention's our football team.
The 3 linemen that are playing that All-America game, are they potential guys who can play this coming season sometime?
Well, I think that's always too early to tell. I think that, anytime you have 4 All-Americans that are playing in a bowl game, 3 of the 4 that'll actually play, 1 because of an injury won't play. But I think anytime that you have an opportunity to have those type of skillful players, they obviously have an opportunity to go in and play. But that's not guaranteed either. We're going from high school to Big Ten football. It's very difficult. You could see even with somebody like Greg Johnson, who was the same way, played but didn't play a ton. He was ready to play, but next year he's going to be way more ready to play than this year. So we'll take them one by one, who's ready, who's not, and make the best decisions for Minnesota, and then in parallel make the best decision for the young people that are coming in here. That's best for their career as well.
You talked about revamping the running back room after what you saw this year with just the injuries and that, and still having Newbin and Taylor coming back. How important was that for you, and what is your outlook on that room in general?
I'm excited about that room. I told you the stats. I told you the speed. I told you the athleticism and the twitch and the explosion. Those 2 freshmen coming early matter. That matters. Because one of those 2, both of them, will have to play this year somehow, some way. Right? CA coming over from Ohio, we're expecting him to play. Darius, expect him to play. JoJo, expect him to play. You all know the running back. This isn't like the one running back in that room anymore. As you can see, throughout the entire country, rarely, and in the NFL, does a running back start the beginning of the year and ends at the end of the year. You don't see that. So you have to have incredible depth. We didn't have as much depth as we needed this year. And again, everything from the result standpoint of the 2023 season is my responsibility to get changed. It's my responsibility to happen. It's my responsibility to respond to it. And that's what we're going to do.
Following up on Ryan's question, what are the attributes you're looking for in a DC?
Well, I think just in general, incredible leader, great presence, really intelligent, great connector of people. Because that's the thing. I mean, I've got 3 staff members in there that are all good. I think they're all signed for the following year. So this isn't like bringing an entire staff and starting over. I mean, we've got incredible recruiters, incredible coaches, but you're looking for that presence in front of the room, that leader in front of the room that's going to be able to add to what we do. This isn't about wholesale change, philosophical belief system. Like, we're not going to necessarily do that. We're going to find somebody that's very similar to us, but also can add a lot of value that can make our defense better. There's a lot of things at the end of the day you have to evaluate why we're 60th in the country on defense and what that comes down to when we're normally not, and then present that to the next coordinator of what we need to change, and that's got to fit on his end and that's got to fit on my end. But to go back to day one, no matter what, it's fit. It's got to fit, and that's why I involve my staff. That's why, to answer Ryan's question, I'm going to do my due diligence. I involve my staff because it's about the connection of the room too. Not some dictatorship. That's not what this is. We all work together. Player, coach, player, we're all one. And the number one thing that connects a locker room, a staff, is gratitude. And we're going to find somebody really grateful of being here, that wants to be here, that puts Minnesota at the highest branch and the highest level. And that's what Minnesota deserves, and that's what we're going to go find.
You've seen a lot of different things on the recruiting trail in the last 3 weeks. Some things have gone your way, some things haven't. Yeah. So now that you've been so immersed in this recruiting, if you could change one thing about recruiting right now, what would it be?
Just one? I don't know if I'm qualified for just one. I would say I answered this earlier, so I'll just stay consistent. I mean, somebody asked me if I'm up for an August signing day. I said, absolutely. They said, would you move up the calendar a little bit where the signing day would also match the portal? Absolutely. I think what's really hard right now, and I get it, but it's really difficult when you have a second period of portal to really form your team of exactly what it's going to be. Because I know what I've been hurt by and I've been affected by and what this team has been affected by. And it's the second one. Because after that, if you're not able to buy them, right, then you can't replace them, right? And that's hard because then you have to rely on what? Youth. And that's exactly where we were this year. And I told you, I've been the worst coach in America. Some people think I'm somewhat good at some years. Like, the one thing that makes me a really good coach, we got really good players, right? And period. And if we're not, then we're probably youthful, inexperienced. We're banged up. We don't have a ton of depth. That's when I'm not necessarily a great coach. I've seen it all. And our players know it's a player's game. And so we've got to do everything we possibly can to retain our players. There's 3 buckets, right? The NIL buckets. And it's like, remember Bozo buckets? You got to get to 6, right? But that thing was the bounciest, right? I had Bozo buckets. I was waiting to go on that Bozo show. I was waiting. I was really waiting for my call. I don't know how I'd ever get a call, but we had our own buckets in our house. True story. And I think my mom still has them in her basement, right? My mom collects things and sends them to me for gifts from my past. But there are 3 buckets. There's the retention bucket that you have to retain your players. There's a high school recruiting bucket that you better be able to when guys get here, you better connect them to a collective, right? And then third thing is the transfer portal bucket. And they all deserve to be full. And whatever how big your bucket is determines what your roster pretty much looked like in the fall. Because we have no idea what our team's actually going to truly look like come July 1. That's unique. That's the difference. And I'm not complaining. You asked me a specific question what I would possibly change because we benefit off the portal. I think everything's great. But there's a lot of things that as we go through this for the first time, second time, third time, I mean, the data's there. Listen to the people that are going through it constantly on a day-to-day basis, and I think we can make it better, right? Not say throw it out, just let's make it better.
I practiced the grand prize game too as a kid.
There you go.
But what's it been like to try to prepare for this bowl game while you're spinning all these other plates?
It's unique. Some practices you're there, some practices you're not. We talk about a player-led team. This team is a completely different team than the end of the year, from top to bottom roster. We don't have a scout team. We got to serve each other because you don't have enough players for a scout team. It's definitely different that way. You're gone, you're back, you're recruiting, you're working on the portal, you're putting the high quality into your team. You got 4 weeks of preparation, 12 total practices. But that's also, as crazy busy as that sounds, that's the fun of it. Like, that's what coaches are addicted to. We're addicted to those things. Like, the next thing. We never get bored, and neither do our players. And if you do, break it. And you have no problem breaking it with the schedules of college coaches these days. So it's exciting. It really is. It's exciting. It's constantly changing. It's evolving. But our players have done a really good job preparing for this bowl game. And got to go out there and play a really good Bowling Green team who finds ways to win, who's very efficient on offense. Scott does a great job of changing up game to game to game. And I don't mean to compare him to this, but like similar to what Jeff Brown always used to do. Jeff is one of the best play callers in the country, in my opinion, and probably one of the most respected offensive minds in the country, especially from me. And he does the exact same thing of making sure that nothing looks the same twice. And you can do a lot of the same stuff, but it doesn't look the same. And then you can build things off of that. And then defensively, they do a great job. They do a great job. You look at, they beat Georgia Tech this year. They were on a huge winning streak towards the end of the year, playing really good football, and special teams connects it all. So, and plus, last time we played them, they beat us. So I'm sure they're showing that over and over and over to get their kids knowing that they can go do that. And
Do you have a final one for Coach? Yeah, knowing what you know now about the roster, what needs do you have in the portal before January 3rd or whatever?
Again, this isn't rushing into it. That is the benefit of having 2 periods. You think you have somebody and then you lose them a little bit later. There isn't a reaction to that. There's more of a response. Like, okay, we have already gone through that scenario-wise, Andy. Like, if we lose him, what is the ability? What are we going to do? And times there's like, okay, we'll just wait till the spring because of X, Y, and Z. There's times like, okay, well, we need to take one more person right now. We'll make those decisions. They've already pretty much been made, but we'll do that over the next course of the next week to 2 weeks as we prepare for the bowl game as well. So it'll be interesting. All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate everybody. Row the boat, Sky Mile, go Gophers. If you're the over, I think you win.